Well, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for attending our monthly webinar event on the latest Dynamics 365 news and updates. Our two presenters of today will be Chris and William. And well, we hope you do enjoy it, and you know that you can ask questions throughout the session, and our speakers will answer them for you. So whenever you're ready to start, William, please.
Yes, thanks, Ruben. So, also a warm welcome from my side. Welcome to this update webcast. My name is William van Voorhuizen, Technical Service Lead and Product Specialist for Business Central at QBS Group. And I guess most of you will know me from at least the webcast which we normally do. And within the summer period, so to say, we didn't host a webcast for the reason of attendance, so to say. And now this is the first one after the summer break, which is just before directions. So in terms of exciting news, it's not that much currently, but nevertheless, I would like to talk you through some Business Central news, and then I will hand it over to Chris, talking more widely about Dynamics 365 and also covering the Power Platform. So let's get started with the Business Central news. I want to highlight some features of the new release, which will start rolling out next month. Also good to know for those who don't, officially the launch is October 1st, so this week. But normally you can expect that as Microsoft is gradually rolling them out through all the Azure regions, that the update could land for your specific tenant also 3-4 weeks later. And even in case Microsoft will occur, if some errors occur or some problems occur, Microsoft also has the right to postpone these updates. But if everything is going okay, you can expect them later next month. And I also want to highlight some topics around directions. I guess and I hope that a lot of you are also joining directions next month in Milan. And hopefully we can meet also some people in person. But let's get started with the highlights of the new release of Business Central, where I would like to guide you through some of the new features of Business Central. As you know, the list is very long on the public website of Microsoft in the release notes, but I would like to highlight a few of them. Just going through them, some more briefly than others, but let's take it away. And starting with the first one, use new templates with the same flexibility as configuration templates. You can now use the capabilities of configuration templates with the new templates for customers, vendors, items, and employees. And these include the ability to add any field and to save and apply templates from customer, vendor, etc. So what does that mean? For example, you can now use personalization on the customer template page to add, for example, the credit limit field, which is normally not visible on the customer page, but now you can more or less force it in the template that that field is visible. So a great addition to enforce that when people are working with, for example, the customer page and working with a customer template, that the credit limit field is available over there. Then the next one, different businesses and users need different information. So personalization is a powerful tool to tailor the information on the pages. Of course, normally we are doing that, especially on list pages, by dragging fields or column from list to the page. Based on the feedback we all gave as the Dynamics community, Microsoft added more fields and columns to choose from on several pages. And it's a huge list, and I will link to the release notes as well. But basically expect that on various type of list pages, you are now able to add way more columns than you were able to before. Another one, very helpful for people using non-inventory items. You can now use them on requisition and planning worksheets. So that's great flexibility over there as well. Then Dataverse. When you integrate Business Central with Dataverse or Dynamics 365 for Sales, both systems often already contain data, because data in Dataverse can come from multiple sources. There might be data that you don't want to transfer to Business Central because it could impact financial reports and all the business processes. So there, the new feature bulk coupling speeds up the process of coupling multiple records, while letting you define rules to control on how couplings are made. So basically, you are able to couple in bulk, and that's the new part of this feature. Another one, a very minor feature, so to say, but it makes a huge difference in usability and be productive while using the web client, for example, is that sales and purchase documents can contain different types of lines. We all know GL account, item, resource, or fixed asset. And in this release, you are now finally able to select the default line type that will be suggested when you create a new document. So if you create a new sales invoice, for example, and for example, you are always working with GL accounts in your sales department, you are able to pre-configure that every new line will start with the type GL account or item or resource, etc. And you can specify those default types in the sales and receivable setup page, and for purchase in the purchase and payable setup page, of course. And yeah, like I said, it's a minor feature, but very helpful if you would like to be productive and work efficiently in the web client, for example. The next one, edit in Excel in recurring general journals and intercompany general journals. We already are familiar with the edit in Excel feature. It has been around on different pages for a while now, but now Microsoft has extended this availability even further. So it's now also able to edit in Excel in the recurring general journals and in the intercompany general journals. Another one, very helpful for you as a partner in guiding your customers on using Business Central and make more use of Business Central, specifically in this case, while making use of apps which are available on AppSource. Now, as a partner with a large number of apps available on AppSource and with the business continuity in mind, customers might not want to install an app directly from AppSource until they know that that app is of a good quality, it won't interfere with their businesses. So they basically ask you as a partner, hey, we have seen this app on AppSource. Is this something relevant for us? Can we install this, etc.? And now with this release wave, partners can preload a list of apps into the customer's Business Central tenant. So basically you give your customers a list. These are, for example, top 20 suggested apps which are a great fit for you, and we as a partner actually are standing behind those apps. We like them, we have experience with them, etc. So great feature for you as a partner. Then you would get also more control over currency exchange rate adjustments. When companies operate in multiple countries or regions, it's important that they can do businesses and run financial reports in more than one currency. We're all familiar with it. Now, because exchange rates often change, businesses must update them frequently. And this feature gives the accountants more control over how they adjust the exchange rates. So now, for example, you can run an exchange rate adjustment only for selected customer or vendors or bank accounts. So basically you can now use filtering in while you're making adjustments to the currency exchange rates. Another powerful feature for you as a partner is that we now have a new automation API to create user groups. And this contributes to decreasing the total onboarding time. We all know Microsoft is now focusing full-on onboarding of Business Central, which should be quick and easy, so to say, at least from Microsoft perspective. So they would like to take away manual labor time from your side, from the partner side, so to say. So with the new API plays part in the initial deployment of a customer environment together with the other automation APIs that allow for a scripted creation of an environment, for example, or scripted creation of a company, an application of configuration packages, etc. That's now available also for creating user groups. Another one, which is at least to make things clear from a Microsoft perspective. We all know that we had the reports 204, 5, 6, and 7, which were more or less duplicates from the 1304, 1305, etc. The latest, the later ones were Word documents, and the other ones were the old RLDC reports, so to say. And now they have removed the old ones in favor of the newer versions, which is following the philosophy of Microsoft that, of course, editing your documents in Word is more easier for end customers, so they are focusing on those reports. So they basically say, enjoy modern report layouts that are easier to customize, and switch to those newer ones because we now remove the old reports. So if you still use one or more of these depreciated reports, now it's time for you as a partner to take some action. Of course, first action is please start using the new modern and the Word layouts of the reports, and please clone the depreciated reports to a custom rates and switch to the cloned report. So basically, if you're still relying on the old reports, please make a clone of them and to the custom range, because Microsoft removes the official ones, so to say. Another feature regarding onboarding, it's one of the bigger pillars of Microsoft to focus on onboarding of Business Central. Now they're adding more tours in Business Central, which is more or less a guided tour through the application. And it already started in the earlier wave of April this year, but now with the new release in this fall, they expand this functionality, so people are able to take more tours through Business Central to get familiar with it, etc. So basically, what you can expect more and more over time is that Microsoft will take away manual labor in the onboarding phase for you as a partner, and stuff which can be duplicated for every customer, like for example, get familiar with or the first training how to use Business Central, etc. Those are areas Microsoft would like to cover in the product itself by, for example, adding guided tools to the system. Then, finally, I should say, also from a personal perspective, we are now able to use timesheets in Business Central on the mobile device. We all know that in the past that was not possible, because in code there was a built-in limitation that a screen size smaller than 7-inch, you were not able to use timesheets in Business Central. With the new release, with the new release, Microsoft has changed that, and the timesheet page has been converted from a worksheet to a document page, and that makes it possible to view and edit that page on a mobile device as well. So now mobile users can add time-related entries to register time spent on tasks, and they are now no longer blocked by having to switch to, for example, the browser on your mobile device, which is horrible to use, to be honest. So finally, we are able to use timesheets in the mobile app of Business Central on your iOS and or Android device. Then the last one, you're now able to send mail from entities using Word templates as body or attachments. So for example, when you compose an email for an entity, let's say on the vendor card page, you can now use Word templates to apply standard and personalized content to the business communication without having to re-enter them. So the Word template will create the content of the email, and you can personalize it by using the mail merge feature, which was released earlier, to add data from the entity in Business Central in that Word document. A few more to go. I will go through them a little bit more briefly to respect the time. More educational app tools for standard roles is a bit the same as, like I said, with the product tools mentioned on the earlier slide. They expanded the support for onboarding business roles by adding built-in tools that cover even more standard entities. So let's say, for example, the role an order processor or a business owner, etc. Then you have guided educational app tools specifically for that role. Another one mentioned earlier also in earlier webcast. Finally, we are now able, as a delegated admin, to create job queue entries and test them and run them one time to see if they work before handing them over to a licensed user. Because as you might know, in Business Central, a job queue should run on a licensed user. But from a support perspective, it was always horrible that you as a partner would like to see if a job queue has paused for whatever reason and you would like to restart them. That was not possible. And now that's possible just by being a delegated admin, which you are as a partner for your end customer. So more Microsoft Teams integration with sharing records between Business Central and Teams. And also you're now able to deploy a Business Central app within Teams. And so you also might experience that Microsoft is also focusing heavily on Microsoft Teams being the new one size fits all application, so to say, more or less the new remote desktop. Everything should be working from within Teams. So Business Central is now also available as an app within Business Central, within Microsoft Teams, sorry. Another one which is helpful for the admins is that Microsoft has now centralized all the different versions of the Office add-ins. We had the Outlook add-in, the Excel add-in, etc. And now they are clustered and easier to find under administration. So yeah, a little bit more easier to manage all the different Office add-ins. Excel. Once more, with the new release, we have a share icon, and that also is applicable to Microsoft Teams. So for example, you're on a page or on an item card, you have a share icon where you can share that record to Microsoft Teams, but also on more list pages, we now have the edit or open in Excel functionality. Another one very helpful for you as a partner is the automatic installation and update of dependencies when updating apps in Business Central. Because, sorry, Business Central Admin Center provides you as an administrator an overview of all the apps that are installed, and if a new app, if an app has an update, you will now see that updating that app might require updating or installing other apps. And now that's made visible by Microsoft for the admins in the admin center. So that's also visible for you as a partner. A few more. Manage access to environments using Azure Active Directory groups. Very helpful if you're deploying Business Central to larger customers. So now you're able to assign the Azure Active Directory groups to a specific environment within Business Central. So basically, you're more able to make use of the security, which is already in place in the Azure Active Directory. For example, which employees do have access to data of which company. Now that's also available for the environments in Business Central. Another small feature, but also very helpful, is that you now have the possibilities to restart environments, because for whatever reason, there could be a problem in an environment, and now you have the option to restart an environment, which basically is a reset. Last one, or not the last one, unhindered data entry has to do with, of course, the transformation to the web client, which do lack some features which were available in the classic client of Business Central. So they now have made some small adjustments where you get, as a user, more the feeling that you're working within a native app. Small example, for example, we already had the function 8 key to copy the value of the cell above. That already works in the web client for a few versions now, but now you're also able, with the function 8 key, to copy true or false Boolean value from the cell above. Just an example, very small enhancement, but really valuable for your customers if they are using the web client of Business Central and they do miss some functionality they had in the old client, so to say. Then the last one, which is OneDrive. New AL objects in the system and base application that integrate with OneDrive. That's basically it. What does that mean? Developers can now write minimal code when they need to open a Business Central file in the browser. So what does this do? This basically copies the file from Business Central to OneDrive and then opens the file using the native web application of Excel or Word or PowerPoint or whatever. So this functionality is intended for interactive scenarios where user initiate the action during the session. So you're just on a page, for example, an item page, you need to see the manual of that specific item. You click on the link in the card, and now it will basically open the file in OneDrive, so you can see it in your browser as well. This was the overview of the highlights of all the features of Business Central. Of course, there's way more. Also, if you take in consideration all the enhancement they've done to development, for example, or the platform itself. And I heavily advise and suggest to you all to join the sessions at Directions to get more in-depth information about new features. And maybe they even will announce some features which are not known yet. And of course, we expect that they also would do a few demos of the majority of those new features. Then Directions. I would like to highlight that we as QBS, of course, are at Directions, and we are also doing some sessions at Directions. So, for example, my colleague Herman is talking about the, I would say, the challenge around solution. We all know that now on AppSource there are 1,500 apps, or maybe even more. But where to find the right solution for your customers? And Herman is hosting a session around that. Speaking about myself, I'm hosting a session about how to rapidly sell and implement Business Central as a 100% fit to your end customers, and let your end customers recognize the value immediately, because within SaaS, they basically purchase a subscription, they get a new system, it needs to be implemented, and they expect, for that much money they are paying, they expect a lot of value. And how to serve that to your customers, I'm hosting a session about that. So feel free to join that session if that fits in your time schedule at Directions. And next to that, Chris, which I'm handing over to in a few minutes, is also doing a session around the Power Platform. So if you're interested about more information about the Power Platform, please join that session as well. And Dennis from the DACH team of QBS is also hosting a session on how to deliver a thriving revenue stream with Business Central SaaS. Those are the sessions which are hosted specifically by QBS people. And of course, there are a lot more sessions, but I just would like to highlight these sessions. And of course, we as QBS do have a booth at Directions. It's S09. And we would like also to tell you that we are having a very nice neighbor at Directions, because One Click Factory will have the booth next to us. So if you hop to QBS, join our booth, and we are talking about migration or whatever, then we can also visit our neighbors, One Click Factory, on actually how to achieve something like that. So feel free to come and say hi. Would love to meet a lot of you over there as well. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Chris.
Thanks, William. Just share my desktop screen presentation here. We're good to go. So hello, everyone. It's been a while since we last talked about the other products outside of Business Central. There's a few things on the list that I'd like to cover today. One's timely around Microsoft licensing for Power Platform that comes into effect tomorrow, outside of the new commerce experience, that is. I want to mention and recap on some of the announcements at Inspire around accessing Dynamics 365 data through Microsoft Teams. There was a new market note published from IDC. It's worth reading. We'll cover off what that is and where you can get hold of it from. We're going to talk about a new podcast series from QBS. We're going to talk about accessing the APIs via Postman, and also then a slight appeal at the end today for anybody on the call who is developing already with Power Platform Power Apps. So first and foremost, Microsoft are releasing 2 new SKUs priced much more competitively than before for Power Apps. Specifically, the Power Apps per user SKU has had a significant price decrease. So what's being released? There is a new per app SKU. It's at $5 instead of previously $10 per month. And there is a new per user SKU at $20 instead of $40 per user per month. So the per user SKU there is actually half the price of what it was before. There's a few points that you should note around the per app SKU. It used to be $10 for that SKU. So again, it looks like it's been halved in price, but it's not actually accurate. In the $10 SKU, you used to get access to 2 apps and a portal. It's now $5 per app. So if you're using 2 apps and a portal, the cost would now be $15, because that would be classed as 3 apps. So think about that. Also, the Outlook client for Power Apps, we understand counts as an app, so be careful with that one moving forwards. I think all in all, this is a really positive move by Microsoft. So as of October the 1st, as I said, timely, starting tomorrow, that per user SKU, $20 instead of $40 per user per month will be available. Second thing I wanted to cover today, there was a broad and bold announcement from Satya Nadella in his keynote speech at Microsoft Inspire. It stated that Teams customers will receive access to Dynamics 365 data within Teams at no extra cost, regardless of whether or not they have a Dynamics 365 license. This was a really exciting announcement. It created a buzz in the Dynamics partner channel. After all, removing that kind of a licensing tax, it could massively impact user adoption, drive real momentum in the sales pipeline, right? So we dug into some of the details. All is not quite as may have been initially perceived. It appears that this will be done through something known as collaborative apps. That is specific apps provided by Microsoft that will control the data that can be accessed. It'll control what can be annotated and updated by users within Teams. So it's not a blanket free-for-all for Teams users to access Dynamics 365 data as per the initial perception. They've said that the initial scenarios to be supported include things such as enabling salespeople to share details of a sales opportunity, customer history, key contacts, For customer service, it may include sharing the customer case record. It's quite vague at the minute, sourcing, troubleshooting steps, tracking follow-up tasks, those sorts of things. I guess other things that have been highlighted have been the ability to add Teams meetings and capture notes via the timeline of the record, and also automated notifications and connected workflow enablement to share things like deal status to aid with handoffs, for example. But for now, we need to wait and see what lands in the October 2021 Wave 2 release before we get too excited. I think the most telling statement here that was made was around entitling all paid Microsoft Teams users with team members level access to Dynamics 365, allowing Teams users to read Dynamics 365 data and action upon designated scenarios. In reality, that would seriously limit the amount of interactions possible, as we know the team member SKUs are extremely limited now since Microsoft has put the forced, so the enforcement of the licensing into those apps and restricted them quite heavily. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, there's a new market note been published by the IDC. It's looking specifically at Microsoft Power FX and how it has the potential to transform the global install base of Excel users into low-code application developers. It talks about how this could be achieved through the transition of Excel-based models and calculations currently working as Excel solutions into line of business applications through the Microsoft Power Apps platform. It's a really interesting read. It discusses how adoption of Power Apps can set the stage for collaboration between developers of all levels, so citizen or low-code developer versus professional developer in Microsoft parlance. It goes on to detail how and why PowerFX can appeal to professional developers. It also gives some simple examples on how it can enable them to edit applications in familiar source code editors. There's other things in there, the usual expected topics, market predictions of adoption, developer workforce, share type, the expansion of the total addressable market of full and part-time developers. It also covers the rationale behind how every knowledge worker will become a developer in some kind of way. So I've read through this, and from a strategy perspective, it's a fascinating document, and it's as much about the evolution of Excel as it is Power Apps. So for anyone who already understands the direction and strategy of business application development from Microsoft, then it's a great read. If anybody feels they need to know more about it, my opinion, that's kind of a genuine must read. So I'd encourage you all to review that. It's not too long, 4 or 5 pages. You can probably read through that in 20 minutes or so. Next thing, moving on, we obviously realized that not everyone has the time to read up on all the Microsoft documentation. So at QBS, we came up with this idea of creating a simple to understand overview without any of the jargon and deliver that in a conversational format in under 10 minutes per episode by way of podcast. Please don't listen to these if you want deep dive technical overview. That's not what it is. They've been created as part of the kind of the CSO role that partners have been asking us for. CSO is Chief Simplification Officer. It's about really just highlighting what Dataverse is and what Power Platform is, what Power Apps are. We've got 2 of those ready to go. We've also recorded the next one. What is Power Apps, where we talk about Canvas apps, model-driven apps, the difference, Power Apps portals, and just do explanations of those things. It's targeted purely at Microsoft partners, so it's not for your customers for redelivery. But in each episode, we try and answer 3 questions. What is it? Why is it relevant? And then how can I make money from it? So there are other episodes planned. We'd love feedback on what else we could include, what you'd like us to cover to make this valuable for you. We're all ears there. So you find that on Spotify or Deezer, a couple of different channels there. Next up, slightly technical on this one. Many people on this call may already be familiar with something known as Postman. It's a popular tool used by devs to connect to web APIs. So what's new here is that Microsoft now provide a pre-approved Azure AD application. So an Azure Active Directory application that can be used to support OAuth and explicit grant flow. And if you want to quickly set up a Postman environment to connect to the Microsoft Dataverse Web API or the Dynamics 365 API, so you can start exploring what's going on in those APIs, how you can access, how you can retrieve data. And you can do that using an application client ID provided by Microsoft. I managed to get this working. It took me about 20 minutes in total with the Power Apps developer plan. Don't forget, you can sign up for that Power Apps developer plan free from Microsoft. And I've successfully tested the application client ID that Microsoft provide with the Power Apps developer plan. So there's 3 instructions here. We'll share the presentation afterwards. I've got a link to the full documentation if you wanted to review all of that. There's an excellent 10-minute video created by one of the guys at Microsoft that shows how all that can be configured. And then I've included again the link there for the Power Apps developer plan. But I was very easily and quickly able to access the account records, the contact records through the web APIs for Dataverse using the client ID there. So nice and simple to set up. And if you do that already for Business Central, this will just be kind of a natural evolution for you. Finally, one slight appeal. We run a Dynamics 365 and Power Platform special interest group on the final Friday of every month. On that call, we've been doing a feature from partners that have provided us with real world examples of what they've done with model driven apps. And, you know, we've had a purchase invoice approval story there that was done for the project function outside of Business Central in a model driven app. We've had an example of Power BI dashboards that run professional services organizations within business and keep visibility there. So if you have a good story, we've got 2 left this year to deliver, one in October, one at the end of October, one at the end of October. If you have a good story around Power Platform, any of the solutions, I'd love to explore the value in you presenting that back to the rest of the channel. And please don't be shy. In the chat window, the Q&A is great. Send me an email. It's there, cparkes@qbsgroup.com. I'd love to consider you for inclusion in the October or November calls, and we could showcase your Power Platform awesomeness, basically. With that, that's all that there is for me today. I think we'll take a look at questions and also hand you back over to Ruben.
Okay, so I don't think that we have any kind of questions. So, well, thank you very much, Chris and William, for bringing us to today's session. We would also like to thank all of you who attended for dedicating your time to us. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. And also, we will send you tomorrow the recording of the event in case you want to watch it again or if you want to use it in the future. And we are looking forward to see you in the next webinar. Thank you very much.